Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Taurus March 2018 horoscope forecast. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, people, first thing off is, as far as March goes, the Sun will be in Pisces from the 1st until the 20th. So the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time for Taurus, there could be very strong concentration of energy, attention, and focus put into matters with their friends, their acquaintances. This could be done with a lot of that Pisces-like compassion, idealism, and really, and perhaps altruism as well. And there might be a lot of this concentration of power and energy put into maybe dealing with perhaps confusion and ambivalence even in matters connected with their aspirations and their goals at this time. And sadly, a lot of times Pisces energy could be somewhat lethargic and relaxing, and it might be where Taurus might feel a little bit more about really relaxing more as opposed and fantasizing more about their objectives, aspirations, and goals, as opposed to maybe doing something about them. So that is the one danger with this here. So anyway, next thing up, as far as March goes, the Sun will be in Aries from the 20th until the 31st. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, this could be really a lot about focus, concentration of energy, and attention put into dealing with limitations and restrictions, and really in fighting fears, perhaps even with a lot of aggressive courage and fortitude, actually maybe doing something about them as opposed to maybe just being idle and stagnant. And also expressing maybe more spontaneity and extemporizing more in their private life than usual. This could also be about combating, putting a lot of this attention into combating hidden adversaries, trying to weed them out, maybe by being very outspoken and really and actually being very direct and forthright, and perhaps with people that they think might be posing as friends, for example, and they might really be enemies in disguise. So anyway, the next thing up is the full moon will be in Virgo on March 1st. So the 5th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, when you're talking about a full moon, this is a thing where you could become tired and really exasperated, somewhat full of something, so to speak. So it could be for Taurus. Well, Taurus, since we're talking about the 5th house and the full moon in Virgo, Taurus might become tired and full, so to speak, of a judgmental or critical lover, one that might be overly fastidious and maybe the same, or it could be a child or someone that figures prominently in their hobbies, their interests, their things of enjoyment. This is also could be a time when something Virgo-like comes to a completion. It may be something that that Taurus really strongly enjoyed. Since we're talking about the 5th house, it could be something maybe connected with extrapolation of data, maybe associated with sports, since that could be connected with the 5th house. It could be something connected with like fantasy basketball or projecting stats for some sports athletes. This could be something too where maybe even a work-related project that was strongly enjoyed by Taurus comes to an end or a completion at this time, and maybe some kind of analysis that might have been done that was taking some time to do regarding a child, regarding a lover, and maybe even something, even in some cases over some gambling interests, or something of a speculative matter. This analysis maybe comes to a conclusion at this time, or even a health issue or predicament, which could give Taurus much joy at this time, since we are talking about the 5th house. Now, next thing up, the new moon will be in Pisces on March 17th. So the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, this could be about perhaps a new, perhaps Pisces-like aspiration and goal might be started. It might be something connected with the metaphysical, which can include astrology, something of a spiritual nature, something else Pisces-like, such as chemistry or some kind of pharmaceutical work, photography, or something with magic and illusion. And also could be a new period of where Taurus shows more compassion, idealism, and even altruism toward their friends, toward acquaintances, and also maybe idealism toward one's future at this time and imagination. At the same time, in some cases, this could be some new period, perhaps, of that Pisces-like ambivalence and confusion, especially, let's say, if this is making an adverse aspect to one's natal Neptune, which could add insult to abject misery, so to speak. Anyway, next thing up, Mercury will be in Pisces as far as March goes, from the 1st until the 6th, so the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, this could be perhaps a lot of idealistic thinking in matters pertaining to friends, their acquaintances, and even their goals and aspirations at this time. And really, at the same time, Taurus might be thinking really more, their thinking might be a little bit more nebulous and confused regarding the future. And Taurus also needs to guard against deceptive communication connected with friends and acquaintances at this time. I mean, Pisces energy could often be more gullible energy, so Taurus really needs to be careful at this time. But Taurus might be using a little bit more intuition than usual to make decisions on matters pertaining to friends, acquaintances, toward their goals and their aspirations as well. And also even maybe making decisions connected with groups and organizations at this time. So anyway, and remember that Mercury is not just restricted to communications, it's connected with other things such as short journeys. So Taurus might be giving maybe friends and acquaintances, maybe getting involved with them with more short journeys and doing so perhaps with that Pisces-like charitable energy and that compassion. So anyway, next thing up, Mercury will be in Aries as far as March goes from the 6th until the 31st. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, Taurus might be perhaps a little bit more outspoken and forthright and aggressive in their communications than usual, maybe even a little bit more combative, but it'll be more with people that are prominent in their private life. And keep in mind too the fact that this is we're talking about the 12th house, so this modifies this as well. This could hold the communication back a little bit for Taurus at this time, but when they do speak, it might be, in their private matters, it can come out still in a little bit more aggressive manner than usual. And also, this can be about really some impulsive, Taurus needs to be careful of impulsive and impetuous thinking, which could lead to oneself undoing this time and perhaps dealing with secret sorrows. Now, it could be more spontaneous statements and things that you can't take back. And also, given that Mercury is going to be retrograde from the 23rd till the 31st as far as this month goes, that Taurus needs to be careful it gives an opportunity at this time anyway to review a little bit more prior to saying something, that some Aries outspoken remark that could be very cutting and very hurtful. So anyway, next thing up is Venus will be in Pisces as far as March goes from the 6th until from the 1st until the 6th. So the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, Taurus needs to be wary of perhaps deceptive charm from friends, from acquaintances at this time. Taurus might also, though, on one positive note about this, may come into a potential significant other, romantic partner, if unattached, somebody that could be a Pisces, or somebody that may simply embody Pisces-like characteristics that might be introduced to them by a friend or acquaintance, or somebody that they might meet in a group. So anyway, it could also be about the expression of enjoyment in Pisces-like things with friends, such as the metaphysical, which can include astrology, something connected like with magic, magic tricks, illusion, things of that even dancing, poetry, perhaps photography, anything that could be Pisces-like. So anyway, and also remember that Venus is about money, so Taurus needs to be careful about perhaps spending unrealistic amounts of money that are tied into one's aspirations and goals, and even their friends as well at this time. Next thing up, Venus will be in Aries as far as March goes from the 6th until the 31st. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, Taurus really may need to guard against very impetuous and impulsive, aggressive spending, perhaps on private matters or other 12th house matters, such as perhaps the metaphysical, which can include astrology. It could be even if they have any friends, say, that are in prison. I mean, this is about 12th house is connected with incarceration and imprisonment. I mean, it could be spending money if they have any friends that are locked up in some remote cases. Also, too, this could be about maybe expressing some kind of enjoyment, maybe of some kind of combat, such as boxing or karate, in their private life that they do maybe in seclusion, and they only have maybe one friend, for example, involved. And also, too, keep in mind, too, this could be about clandestine relationships as well, since we are talking about the 12th house, and we're talking about Venus, and I mean, and ones that could be very, very impulsive, very impetuous, and done with a lot of this Aries fearlessness, so to speak. So it's important to be careful at this time, Taurus. But at the same time, too, if Taurus is connected and in some kind of stable relationship, this could be a period, too, where maybe this loved one kind of goes out of view to some degree during this time, since you're talking about the 12th house and about what's hidden, and it's about restrictions and limitations, and the person might kind of dissipate for a little bit, or maybe you see less of this person at this time during this period until Venus is actually by the 1st house. So anyway, next thing up is Mars will be in Sagittarius as far as March goes from the 1st until the 17th. So the 8th house is well be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, this could be about philosophical differences, perhaps with someone they're in an intimate or sexual relationship with. This could be, too, where the situation, perhaps with an intimate or sexual partner, might be a little bit more acrimonious and contentious than usual. Also, another way this might manifest, too, on a positive side, this could be about a lot of enthusiastic and exuberant energy put into maybe making a major change or transformation or regeneration for Taurus at this time. And Taurus, because we're talking about Mars and the 8th house and in Sagittarius, that expansive sign, Taurus might feel their libido increase to some degree at this time compared to usual. And also, too, looking at this, I mean, Mars is about anger too, so I mean, this could be a time for Taurus where they might be able to work out off some of that energy, perhaps through some maybe vigorous exercising or doing something outdoors, outdoor activities or outdoor sports, perhaps with somebody that they're in that intimate relationship or sexual relationship with. This could also be a time, though, that there might be more battles, say, with people connected with the 8th house, such as astrologers, for example, people in the occult, the supernatural, people that are involved with doing taxes, insurance people at this time. So anyway, next thing up, Mars will be in Capricorn as far as March goes from the 17th until the 31st. So the 9th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So anyway, For Taurus at this time, Taurus might be able to inject a lot of a consistent and disciplined, serious energy into perhaps higher education. It could be also maybe in publishing, doing things that require maybe long distance traveling at this time. At this time as well for Taurus, there might be the situation perhaps with in-laws and grandchildren might be a little bit more acrimonious and contentious at this time. There could be more arguments over things connected with the government and politics with these people perhaps as well. And anyway, and really this could be about really putting forth that consistent energy, as I stated before, into ninth house matters and into philosophy and perhaps into religion as well, and more consistency with that. So anyway, next thing up is, well, Jupiter will be in Scorpio as far as well, actually Jupiter will still be in Scorpio, I should say, this month. So anyway, remember, as I've talked about previously, that Jupiter can be paradoxical. It is very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also be about expanding things. And in this case, I mean, it could expand some surreptitious and nefarious activity in matters connected with relationships, with open adversaries, and really in partnership situations as well. So Taurus needs to be careful at this time as far as that goes. At the same time, I mean, so we're talking about Jupiter in the 7th house, and if Taurus is unattached, this could be very fortuitous perhaps for maybe finding that significant other. In some cases, it might be a Scorpio or somebody that might have embody Scorpio-like characteristics. This could also be about very strong luck and fortune, perhaps through perhaps maybe a partnership that might be connected with something Scorpio-like, such as astrology, the occult, supernatural, locksmithing, something connected with forensics, investigation, perhaps. So those are some things to look at as far as this goes. And keep in mind, too, that Jupiter will be, it's going to hit retrograde at this time, I believe, on the 9th. And and of course, as far as March goes, through the 9th through the 31st, I believe, as far as this month goes. So the thing about this is that during that time, this could be about more of that enthusiastic and exuberant Scorpio energy might be directed a little bit more inward. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be experiencing it, but this thing, as far as perhaps this exuberance, for example, and enthusiasm connected maybe with a Scorpio-like partnership, might not be coming out as strongly outwardly, but you still may be experiencing. And at the same time, this could be about a lot more of reassessing and reevaluation of really maybe things, Jupiter and Scorpio 7th house matters that you're exuberant and enthusiastic about, such as maybe deep relationships and maybe even some kind of partnership that's associated with Scorpio, such as I stated before, something with astrology, the occult, supernatural, locksmithing, something maybe with investigation, etc. So anyway, next thing up, Saturn will be in Capricorn still, so the 9th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So for Taurus at this time, Taurus might experience some restrictions, limitations that might be connected with long distance traveling, higher education, publishing, which might leave Taurus feeling a little bit despondent and melancholy at this time. In some cases too, this could also be about maybe Taurus having to take care of perhaps a debilitated in-law or grandchild, Also, too, it could also be about for Taurus at this time taking serious responsibility into matters pertaining to religion, their philosophical outlook at this time, and really, and maybe, and it could even be connected with other ninth house matters, such as long distance traveling, such as publishing. Maybe even doing things really as far as their philosophical outlook goes at this time, and maybe even responsibilities toward grandchildren and in-laws as well. So anyway, next thing up is Uranus will be in Aries still, so the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, Taurus might experience perhaps more as far as you could say their private life goes, might be a little bit more erratic and sporadic than usual, and might be more chaos in their private life at this time, and maybe more disruptions in sleep. It could be unpredictable events in one's private life, and really too, Taurus might be experiencing in private more certain ingenuity and pioneering ideas that they have that might be innovative, but because we're talking about the 12th house, Taurus might be suppressing them, and it might not be allowing it to come out or be expressed at this time. Also, it could be a period for Taurus. This may manifest as an unusual need for solitude and seclusion. In some isolated cases, this could be sometimes where maybe an unusual mental illness may come about as well for Taurus. And Taurus might feel that maybe there's something with their privacy and their freedom is somewhat inhibited. I mean, I'm experiencing this actual transit in my 12th house, and I'm feeling this way very strongly at this time. So anyway, next thing up is Neptune will still be in Pisces, so the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, Taurus may have to be, might deal, in some cases, be very wary of false prophets that might misguide them, or false or fallacious psychics that might try to guide them toward maybe a wrong aspiration and goal. It could also be for Taurus at this time dissipation of their friends, their acquaintances. I'm actually having this transit in my 11th house right now, and it seems like, I mean, I'm inexplicably losing my friends and whoever at this time. And I mean, I've had people block me on Facebook inexplicably and without any conversation or communication, which is really befuddling to me, but not surprising because it is Neptune energy. Neptune energy, of course, could be very nebulous and unclear. And Taurus at this time might be a little bit more nebulous and unclear as far as their objectives, their aspirations and goals at this time. So anyway, and their future might be nebulous, and they might not really be as sure of it at this time. In some cases, though, Taurus might be experiencing maybe some friends and acquaintances that might be more deceptive and might even be tied into some kind of drug or alcohol use as well. So anyway, next thing up is Pluto will still be in Capricorn, so the 9th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, I know many of you don't want me to use the dreaded D word, but you know I do it anyway because Pluto is connected with death, and I feel it needs to be stated. Now, in some cases, this could be a literal death of an in-law or even a grandchild, if applicable, at this time. At this time for Taurus, there might be terrorism might maybe impact them taking a long-distance journey. I understand this is true for anybody, regardless of sign and regardless where Pluto is in one's chart, but it might impact them a little bit more prominently. And keep in mind for Taurus that Taurus often does have Capricorn on their 9th house cusp in a solar natal chart, and that could indicate restrictions and limitations in long distance traveling right there anyway, and I have that in my natal chart, so I understand about this. Now, another thing too is there could be more power struggles with in-laws and grandchildren at this time, if applicable. Taurus might also be going through a major transformation or metamorphosis in their philosophical outlook or their religious outlook at this time as well. So anyway, people, next thing up is, well, the North Node will still be in Leo, so the fourth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus at this time. So at this time for Taurus, I mean, when North Node is in transit, keep in mind this can manifest in a where it's really could be about what one needs to confront. And at this time for Taurus, well, it could be having to confront perhaps a domineering, overbearing, and arrogant family member or someone they simply feel close to home with, so to speak. Also could be about extravagance in matters connected with the home. It could either having to deal with exorbitant payments that they need to curtail, or it could simply be about where they realize they have to spend more money than usual on things pertaining to the home. So anyway, it could also be where Taurus is at a point where they feel they need to take some pride and dignity in their roots, in their traditions, and be proud of them at this time as well. And also, too, about showing perhaps even generosity, perhaps more so, being more magnanimous in matters with their family and people that they feel close to home with. And it could also be, too, about maybe spending a little bit more money, being a little bit more extravagant in making maybe the preparations for one's end of life. I'm not saying that Taurus is dying at this. Taurus people are going to die when they have this, when you're dealing with the North Node in the fourth house. But what I mean is, regardless of age and health situation, about making the preparations and in preparing, such as getting a nest egg or opening some kind of retirement account. So anyway, next thing up is the Black Moon Lilith will still be in Capricorn, so the ninth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus at this time. So for Taurus, well, this could be a time for Taurus where Taurus really may have to deal, where it might be an unveiling or revelation of maybe an in-law or even a grandchild, if applicable, that might be exhibiting some ruthless, tyrannical, and even overambitious qualities, or very cold, undemonstrative nature. And maybe even, too, Taurus might even they may not want it to come out, but something may unwittingly come out of the bag, so to speak. Maybe a rather depressing philosophical outlook at this time may be coming out. Remember that the Black Moon Lilith can also be about very strong, powerful, formidable adversaries, and in some cases it could be Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or simply be somebody that embodies those characteristics. And it could be somebody that maybe they meet in some kind of long distance journey. It could be in a college, university, or sometimes this could manifest in being perhaps an in-law or even a grandchild, if applicable. So anyway, last but not least, Chiron will still be in Pisces, so the 11th houses will be emphasized and highlighted for Taurus. So at this time for Taurus, well, this could be manifest perhaps in Taurus dealing with emotional wounds connected with confusion and confusion regarding their aspirations, their goals, the future, maybe being overly passive and not being assertive enough in maybe tackling these issues. It could in some cases be being victimized by duplicitous and deceptive friends and acquaintances, and maybe deluding oneself as far as what their goals, objectives, and aspirations should be. Now, in some cases too, Taurus might be going through some emotional suffering, maybe dealing with some kind of, with a friend or acquaintance perhaps that might be going through some Pisces issues, something connected with recreational drugs and or alcohol, or maybe even in just really just something Pisces related. And really, and also Taurus might be going through a little bit of suffering connected as far as their future goes, at this time, and maybe making, maybe really having indecisions about maybe matters connected with what groups and organizations they may join. So anyway, people, well, what I want to say, I want to finish up something about Chiron and Pisces in the 11th house for Taurus, is that keep in mind, though, that Chiron is the wounded healer. So, I mean, what Taurus might be dealing with as far as what they're suffering in connection with Chiron and Pisces and the 11th house, Taurus can help somebody else perhaps that way, dealing with comparable issues, and doing so with that Pisces like empathy, compassion, and self-sacrifice. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my Taurus March 2018 horoscope forecast. Stay tuned next time where I'll be giving you my Gemini March 2018 horoscope forecast. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.